Blizzard is a well-rounded build that has been a favorite among sorcerers for many seasons for entering the endgame. Welcome to the Maxroll channel. I'm your host Panda Glassjaw, and this is my Mythic Blizzard guide for Sorcerer and Diablo 4's Season 6. The cornerstone of the Blizzard build is Glacial, an aspect that adds ice spikes that explode in the radius of your Blizzard for exceptional damage when scaled. You increase the area coverage of the ice spikes with an offensive aspect called Frozen Tundra. The damage range won't matter on Frozen Tundra, which makes finding it easier. Your other offensive aspects are Storm Swell, which provides 35% additional damage while Ice Armor is active, along with an additional 15% damage against frozen enemies. Shredding Blades will give you another 35% damage against vulnerable enemies. For your defensive aspects, you have a mobility aspect called Metamorphosis that changes your evade into a short-range dash while providing unstoppable for 2.5 seconds. This will help with mobility and can allow you to have 100% uptime on unstoppable. Blue Rose is a unique ring that has a lucky hit chance for additional ice spikes. The most important part of the ring is the chance for your ice spikes to explode twice, massively increasing your Glacial's damage. It also has a large source of additive damage to ice spikes and cold, with some critical strike chance as well. Starless Skies is a mythic ring. It'll provide 10% damage and resource cost reduction every time you cast a skill that costs resource, stacking up to 5 times. It also provides a large amount of attack speed and critical strike chance.
Paragon Crest, also known as Shaco, is a mythic that provides massive cooldown reduction, along with great defensive stats. Tibalt's Will provides extra damage after going unstoppable, along with damage reduction while unstoppable. This will be easy to maintain with Metamorphosis.
Material's Might is a mythic chest. It'll provide damage reduction along with an increase to the maximum amount of resistances you can have. The maximum resistance increase is a massive defense increase. For your enchantments, you take Firebolt to apply burning damage to enemies with direct damage from your skills. Notably, your Blizzard will not burn as a damage over time, along with Ice Spikes not technically being your skill for this enchantment's activation. Instead, your conjurations will apply the burn for you. Ice Blades is your second enchantment. It summons Ice Blades after you cast enough skills with a cooldown. This will provide additional conjuration mastery stacks, along with some cooldown reduction thanks to summoned Ice Blades. For your skills, you put points into Firebolt for your enchantments. Teleport is a mobility skill that will also give you damage reduction and make you unstoppable, which allows you to break any crowd control. Ice Armor is a large barrier that increases your mana regeneration and has its cooldown reduced as you spend more mana. Hydra is your primary rotation with Blizzard for Tal Rasha stacks and Enlightenment. Lightning Spear will be your main source of vulnerable for groups of enemies. Getting up cooldown reduction is important to keep this active. Ice Blades will apply vulnerable to single targets and help with cooldown reduction thanks to summoned Ice Blades. Blizzard provides your main source of damage with the Glacial aspect. This means you won't scale the base damage of the skill and won't put more than one rank into it to get to Mage's Blizzard. Protection is a passive skill that grants a barrier for each skill that you cast with a cooldown, and it lasts a few seconds. This will provide a lot of defense. Enlightenment is your key passive. This requires you to rotate different elements to quickly stack up to 100 for a buff called Enlightened. Enlightened gives you increased damage by stacking your lightning, fire, and cold elemental damage additives with each other. It also increases your mana regeneration and attack speed, along with an additional 25% damage multiplier. While Enlightened, your stacks will deplete, and you can't gain additional stacks until reaching 0, and then you will need to start your rotation again. For your Paragon, you'll begin with Destruction in your starting board for 2% increased damage against enemies after critically striking them, stacking up to 12%, along with a critical strike damage legendary multiplier. Your first board will be Frigid Bait. The legendary node increases your damage against vulnerable enemies by 60%. Unleash will be your glyph for 8% extra damage and 25% extra mana regeneration after spending mana, along with the flat damage legendary multiplier. Your next board is Fundamental Release. The legendary node increases your damage done by 10% for burning, applying vulnerable, or critically striking an enemy, stacking up to 30%. Tactician will be your glyph for an extra 10% damage after using a defensive skill, along with a flat damage legendary multiplier. Your next board is Enchantment Master. The legendary node gives you a minor damage increase by improving your enchantments by 20%. Elementalist will be your glyph and increases your damage by 5% for each elemental damage you deal to an enemy, stacking up to 15%, along with a non-physical damage legendary multiplier. Your final board is Ice Ball. The legendary node increases your damage against vulnerable enemies by 25%, which doubles against frozen enemies. This includes staggered bosses. Flame Beater will be your glyph, for 10% extra damage against burning enemies, along with the flat damage legendary multiplier.